When building a home, it's really good to have great resources like a lumber yard, hardware store, or, products like that. I've used Rings End Lumber, and actually they've supplied a lot of the products for the project. Last time we were in their showroom here, we were talking about windows and exterior doors. And David Lee walked us through a bunch of the different products and showed us, and it was very informative, very informative. So today we're kind of back at that. We moved on from our, exterior windows and doors and, projects and moving forward. Now it's time to think about finishing products. So Dave has got a great showroom for that, and he's got some samples. So why don't we go over there and go see what he's got for us and talk about it. Hi, David. How are you?
Dave, how are you? Nice to see you again.
Yeah. Thank you for taking time out to, show us some of the products. We've had a great, experience on our prior episode. We went through exterior windows and doors, and a lot of people on the blog and questions, and you were so thorough. And so now as the project progresses along, I guess the next thing is to talk about interior stuff. So.
And I haven't been out to the house for a while, but I hear through the grapevine that the project's coming along really well.
Yeah.
And that's really nice to hear when things go like you hope they will. So now we're into the interior of the home. So other than maybe your kitchen and your furniture, the next most important thing about how the house presents itself are your interior doors and your trim.
Yeah.
So kind of with that in mind, I've put together a little bit of a display.
Okay.
And normally when a customer comes in, the first thing we ask, and this is the basis of the whole discussion, stain or paint.
Oh.
Because from there, everything kind of funnels down. Because if you're going to paint, why spend the money for stainable grade materials?
Right.
And by the same token, if you want to stain something, why would you ever buy paintable trim and try and stain it to look like the real deal?
Yes.
Doesn't work.
What do you see as being more popular? Actually, even before we talk about each product, what do you see for categories?
Every year, paintable becomes more and more popular. There's less and less of a stain mindset. And it might have to do to a certain extent with the finishing process. Stain materials are more expensive because they have to be clear grade product. And then you have to stain and polyurethane them.
Okay.
Pretty labor-intensive situation. Whereas when you go to paintable products, you set them up, 2 coats of paint, you're done.
And you can change it. I think with stain, you're pretty much stuck unless you want to sand down or do a poly shades or something over it or whatever you call it.
If somebody changes their mind down the road that they don't like the stain color, it's really pretty much, oh well.
Okay.
Whereas with paint, a new coat of paint and things change.
Okay, well good. Well, okay, so in my case, I like painted products, so I would go with painted trim. That's kind of the look that I go after. So basically...
so we can kind of slide the stain stuff out to the side.
Right.
Well, good. Well, in paintable products, just about everything that you would find in a stainable grade material is available in a paint grade.
Oh, okay.
And when they say paint grade, it's because what they do is they take stain grade material, but it has lots of knots in it, and they cut those knots out and join the pieces together to form all 16-foot lengths of material.
Ah, so it's pretty uniform then.
Very uniform in product. And as you can see here, there are lots of different types of materials, whether it's for baseboard products, moving on to window and door casings, which would give you this effect, and then moving on to ceiling materials.
Oh, like a crown.
Like a crown.
So David, what would you recommend in my project? I don't want to say it's colonial, and I don't want to say it's totally contemporary. It's kind of,
somewhere
seaside.
in the middle.
Yeah.
And it can go either way.
Right.
So I put some other pieces aside that we haven't seen yet.
Oh, okay.
Now this is the 2.5-inch example of what we put down here.
Okay. Very common.
Very common. For your home, it wouldn't be my recommendation. What I would rather see you do something like would be a baseboard, something like this, which is fairly tall because you do have high ceilings on the first floor.
That's correct. 9-foot ceilings, you don't want to have.
And having a taller baseboard tends to keep everything in proportion. So to me, it would be that baseboard along with either this casing, which makes a nice effect, or I don't know that I would do that one either.
Right.
I would think maybe something like this.
Right. So, yep, try to match the profile and
Something
stuff.
to give it a little more. I'm really in favor of the Windsor casing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Again, because your first floor is really big,
Yep.
lots of open space, and this will help define those spaces to a certain extent.
Right. It's almost common practice now to use 3.5-inch casing. The electricians know to keep the outlets away from there. The closets and aren't right at the corner of a wall.
Right.
We've pulled them out a little bit, so now you don't have to rip a 3.5-inch casing
Exactly.
and do all that. It seems like evolution of some of the construction
Well, that's
techniques.
been going on for a long time now, where it's just with the houses getting larger, ceilings taller, more and more massive moldings are becoming the norm rather than the exception. Back when you and I were kids, it was 2.5-inch casing and 3.5-inch base in every home that was ever built.
That's it.
Unless you were John D. Rockefeller.
Yeah, right. You know, talk about doors then too. How do we tie all this back into doors, and what do we have for choices on when it comes to the interior door?
We come back to stain or paint. If we're going to stain, we're going to go into wood doors.
Okay.
And wood doors are going to be generally something along the lines of this. This is kind of an exploded version to show people what the basic parts of a wood door are. Normally you have bottom and top rails, and then you have side stiles. And the thing about wood doors is that if you have any design panels on them, they float within the stile and rail section.
That's right, because wood expands and
wood
contracts.
expands and contracts, and this has to be able to do that. If they glued these panels in and they contract, everything splits.
Okay.
So what they do is they let the panel float within the frame. As far as wood doors go, the most common one is pine, because it takes a stain very nicely. But you can do fir, you can do walnut. Again, if you want to pay for it, you can get just about any species of wood door there is.
Right. Depends on the look and the feel of your project or what you want. Now, what's the difference between this other wood door here? It looks
this is a little different in that this is a fairly new style that's come out, where that's a chalkboard surface.
Oh my gosh.
So if you want to have a door that's in the kitchen where you're writing all the things that you want your little children to do, or if you want to do drawings on your house, they don't have to paint on the walls. They can just draw on the chalkboard.
Wow.
And when you get into these types, there are two basic subtypes. One that they call hollow core, which if you look in this, the name is very aptly determined.
Yeah, well, there you go.
There's nothing on the inside of the door.
Okay, and this is the one that's got, you slam it and boom,
you slam it, you can hear every little noise that little Johnny or little Julie are making.
Yeah.
This was the standard for the longest time, was hollow core doors.
When you said a molded door, this is what it was.
This is what it was.
Okay.
And generally had a wood grain texture to it. Though it doesn't look like any wood grain door that I've ever seen. It's the real deal.
Right.
So the next alternative to that was to make something that felt more and looked more like a real wood door. And that was putting what they call a structured core into it.
Wow.
Very solid door. Almost as heavy, and in some cases heavier than a comparable wood door. So it cuts down on noise.
Okay.
And it just feels luxurious. And what they did is they put a smooth finish on it.
Oh, okay. So I could spray them or roll them or something.
So you can spray or roll. And if you're really good with a spray gun, you can get an automotive quality finish on this door. Well, we have these little cutaway displays here, which are nice, but it's not as good as seeing the real thing. And I have another section of my showroom that has some of the real deal.
That I got to see. So
let's go take a look at that.
Okay. All right. Because, seeing the full thing really makes a decision.
Yes.
Are there any pitfalls or anything people should think about when looking at interior doors? Or?
Usually the thing is you got to be careful what you pair it with in terms of your interior trim. You don't want a provincial door with colonial trim.
Oh, okay.
And that's probably the biggest issue that some people have.
Just kind of matching styles and things like that too. So.
Well, now that we're back over here in this particular display, we're going to show you some of the full-size examples of what some of the doors are. Here's an example of a stain grade wood door. Very common in the Midwest because of the square profiles that you have on it. But that's just one example of that.
What would be in New England? What's more typical?
Oh, New England is a 6-panel design market. Always has been, probably always will be. And the next common design was what they called a 4-panel. You'd have 2 large panels down below, and the top ones would just continue all the way through.
Okay, gotcha.
Kind of a Connecticut original in a way.
Oh, okay. Do you have a sample of something like that? Or?
I do not. I was hoping that I did, but I do not.
Yeah, okay.
But here's an example of the hollow core door.
Okay, yeah.
What that sounds like. Compared to what the solid core door sounds like.
That sounds like a regular wood door.
Exact
wood door.
same door, 6-panel design,
Wow.
but the solid core really gives it some heft.
Right. That says a lot.
And then, of course, while you're at it, if you're looking, unfortunately, this door is designed with glass in it, with the glass already having a protective coating over it.
Okay.
So you can be as messy as you want to be with the paint job, and it's going to come out looking beautiful when you finish.
Oh, wow. So what's the idea there? Paint, spray, do whatever?
Do whatever you like, and then you just
peel it off?
Peel it right off.
Oh, okay.
I'll move to 2-panel doors. Seems to be becoming very popular now. It's a variation on a look from what you had before.
Right.
Rather than if you don't want something with the traditional colonial design, then you pick a 2-panel.
Right.
And we've done a number of projects with this style of door.
Right. It looks like this is a little more contemporary over there too.
Actually,
or is that Midwest look?
A couple of different things. This is either depending on where you live. If you happen to live down in some of the beach communities down in southeastern Connecticut, this is what the doors all were 5 horizontal panel doors.
Wow.
Almost without exception.
Yeah, that's amazing. See, you don't think about it. You think of where you've been in relation to a door, but there are certain markets where things are more prevalent. Wow, it's a good education. We have, from a very simple door being the hollow core to something better that's solid or core of a molded, getting into an MDF, or if you're in the stain grade, well then, pure wood.
And the sky is the limit.
Yeah. But it seems like in my case, I'm focused more on the painting, and so now it's like molded versus MDF question. Now, I'll have to sit down and look at the designs.
That becomes the trade-off in terms of availability and price.
Okay.
Because everything comes at a price going from the hollow molded door to the structured core molded door to MDF.
Okay, and there's a good jump from
there can be, depending on the style you choose.
Okay, all right.
So this kind of takes care of what you can do for interior doors. What I'd like to take us to next is to show you some of our large display of interior moldings, more than what we just showed you when we were in our other section of our
showroom. Not just a picture on a computer?
Not just a picture on a computer. So we're a little bit closer to our wall display here.
Yep.
And here it is.
Oh yeah, look at that.
This is just about every molding that we carry in stock. And again, the nicest part about it is you can walk up, see it, touch it, and really get a feel, literally, for how it's going to work in your home.
Well, I'm looking at crown right now, and it's good to see that perspective. How big? Oh, it's a 4-inch crown. You say it, but until you see it, oh, do I really need this, or do I want a 5.5-inch crown?
That's right. Or do I want something really, really, really ornate?
Oh wow.
Or do I want something a little more genteel?
Right. And then a mixture of both and build up and do all those kinds of things. So, yeah. And so you're showing the paint grade as well as the stain grade like you talked about over there.
We'll even show some designs in oak moldings, because in some cases that's still very popular.
Right.
And a lot of the moldings, if we don't have a piece for you to take with you, give us a couple minutes and you'll have a piece in your hands.
Okay, yeah, right here. I see you have a bunch of little samples
we keep a large stock of samples for customers to take home and play with.
Well, that's awesome. Well, that's a lot of information for me to digest, Dave. Kind of mind overload. So I think I got to sit down and look at some designs, go over with my wife and see what pattern interior door and kind of go on that. We both agreed on the paint grade, so it's probably, in that Marblehead, Windsor area kind of trim on there. And I do like that neck base you showed me. I think that was this one right here, right?
And if she doesn't like that, you just send her on in and we'll show her something else.
Okay, all right, awesome. Well, it's been a big help. Thank you, David.
My pleasure,
really
Dave.
appreciate
Always a pleasure to have you in the store.
Yeah, great. That was awesome. David, he's just so knowledgeable when it comes to these products. We talked with him about interior doors, and prior to that we talked about windows, and just the guy is a great wealth and helps lay out there, and when you order it, make sure everything gets ordered correctly. So that's the great thing about dealing with a lumber yard and having a personal relationship there. they can really help you out. You know, not everybody's an expert, you know, so I really rely on people like David to help me through this process. But great information today. Really appreciate you guys coming, and thanks.